The next presenter is Jayson Faulkner, president and founder of Bridal Falls Gondola Project, an initiative that promises to bring significant ecotourism benefits and open up areas of the backcountry for discovery and conservation. Jayson is one of the founding partners behind the highly successful Sea-to-Sky Gondola in Squamish. He is a member of the Tourism Marketing Committee of Destination BC Tourism BC. For 21 years, he owned and operated Escape Route Adventure Group, specializing in outdoor activity gear. And he served a term as councillor for the resort municipality of Whistler. Jayson is a Simon Fraser University graduate in business administration. This evening, Jayson's presentation will focus on the importance of wild spaces and why maintaining them is so important to our health and well-being.
When I was asked if I could participate in this event, what made me say yes is that I think we're living in extraordinary times right now. The stress that COVID-19 has brought in 2020 is unprecedented. And I want to talk a little bit about the opportunities and values that our project, the Gondola Project, I think can bring to this time. This quote from over 100 years ago was never more true than it is today. And I know that having spent a lot of my life in the outdoors, I've been fortunate to travel to lots of different places and mountain cultures, and I've learned a few things, I think, about the power of nature and the power that it has in our lives. More than ever, we're an urbanized culture. Canada is 80% of our population lives in cities. It was only over just 100 years ago that 80% of our population lived in rural communities where they were very much connected to land and to nature. And this has changed dramatically, more so than we've ever seen. And while I've spent this time in the outdoors, for me it was always a place to escape. It was a place to manage the stress of life that everybody faces. And I've raised my 3 sons also to experience this, so they had that tool to manage their own well-being and health as a way to escape and as a way to manage that stress. And I believe that human beings were hardwired to be outside in nature. We've only been on this planet as a species for about 70,000 years, and only in the last 10,000 years did we actually build cities and urbanize ourselves. And that was the beginning of separating ourselves from the rhythms of the natural world as hunters and gatherers. And we evolved as being a function of our environment, not just simply existing in it. And I believe over the last few decades, we've really lost that connection, and that's been increasing over time. And yet, to deny this need is to damage our own health and well-being. We know this intuitively. And in many cultures, they never lost this connection. If you look at the Stalo or the Chiam people, they look at the mountains around us as deities and guardians. Whereas we in the West have mostly commodified these as just large piles of rock. We've stripped away the magic and the power that these places actually have on us and the good that they can do our souls. It's no coincidence, in my view, that at a time of major health crisis around the world, that record numbers of people are going into the woods and into the mountains. This is not a local phenomenon. It's been worldwide as people are yearning for that fresh air and that space to escape and be safe and be renewed. The eco-psychologist and activist Chellis Glendenning diagnosed Western culture as suffering from what she called original trauma. And the symptoms were very similar to PTSD. There was hyperreactions, inappropriate outbursts of anger, constriction of the emotions, loss of a sense of control over our destiny. And the work that has continued in this has been broad. In the medical journal Nature, a study in 2019, they found that the epidemiological evidence indicates that greater exposure and contact with natural environments is associated with better health and better well-being, especially in high-income urbanized societies. 120 minutes a week, that's all you need. 120 minutes and you're good. The results were consistent across key groups of older adults, even those with long-term health issues. And it didn't matter how you achieved that 120 weeks in the outside. But it's proven that this is more successful than most prescription drugs when treating things like depression or PTSD and a multiple of other disorders. This has been recognized in many cultures around the world. Shinrin Yoku, called forest bathing in Japan, Montagna Therapia in Italy, and even in Scotland, they passed a law just a short couple of years ago that allowed doctors to prescribe going for a walk for a treatment for depression. We know this intuitively. We know this is good for us. And it's why it's a growing phenomenon around the world, as it has been for thousands of years. And throughout the Androsphere, which is the sum total of all our knowledge and human experience, we've always known that the wise and so on seek the mountains and so on for inspiration, for learning, and for health. And while we need to provide, I believe, more infrastructure that allows us to more easily access these places responsibly and allow a wider group of people with different abilities to be able to experience this for health and well-being. Look at the crazy demand on our parks and green spaces that we saw this year and this summer, and that was worldwide. There's another opportunity here as well that we believe our project brings. In 2007, Richard Branson offered a $25 million prize to the person who could come up with a device that would remove significant amounts of CO2 from the atmosphere. There was a cheeky biologist, environmentalist from Oregon who just drew a picture, Andy Kerr, and sent it in. And it was just a picture of a tree. And his point was that this is the best technology that exists, and no human has been able to devise anything better. That trees are exceptionally good at pulling CO2 out of the air. And he made his point. He didn't win the contest, but he definitely made his point. So what if we could renew and regenerate a logged forest, not just by planting trees that we harvest again in 40 years, because the maximum sequestration of carbon occurs over the 80-year cycle, and also planting a mixed forest that isn't just a single species, but it could provide generations of CO2 sequestering and regenerate and renew for health benefits. This research was done, there was additional research done by the National Academy of Sciences in the US looking at natural carbon solutions. And they found the best natural carbon or climate solution, carbon sequestration, was reforestation and regeneration of burnt ground or logged ground. And it turns out the Pacific coastal rainforests sequester carbon at 2 times the rate of an Amazon rainforest. So our trees are extraordinary engines of CO2 sequestration. So what if we could protect 4,000 hectares of land and regenerate and renew that? Not only would it provide sequestration for carbon and nature and our global climate change, but psychologically and physically it would provide the health and benefits and well-being benefits to our community at large. And anything we can do that gets closer to this, more of us in the outdoors, is something we need to do a lot more of. Thank you.